This is Robert Kraft, and I'm your host on SNN.Network. And today joining me is Alf Poor. He is the CEO of Ideanomics. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is IDEX on NASDAQ. Alf, welcome back. It's great to see you, and how are you holding up?
Great, very good, thank you. Wish we could get a haircut. Otherwise, everything's good, Rob. How are you?
I know, same here. I'm running out of gel at this point, but I will just get more gel, right? Anyways, so it's actually been a while since we had you on the program. I believe about 7 to 8 months. So
correct. Yeah.
So I'd love to get some highlights for the company since we last spoke.
Some really big things that have happened since we last spoke is we brought our lease financing funds online in China. That helps us fulfill a lot of the large order book that we've been developing over the last couple of years. We did something incredible towards the end of last year. We struck a deal with the city of Qingdao to base our EV hub. It's going to be a multi-manufacturer expo so that major fleet operators can come in. That's really important. We did a soft launch of that this month as China starts to reopen with social distancing. But we're expecting to do a full ribbon cutting on that. That's 1 million square feet of state-of-the-art showroom space with a welcome center that'll go online towards the end of next month. So those two things in particular are really meaningful for what we're doing.
Perfect. So, one of the things that I had to ask you about, and I know my audience who may be following the story, or maybe even new investors that are looking at, maybe recent announcement or recent quarterly results, and you're like trying to put two and two together. Over the last 6 months or so, as you just alluded to, the company has put out news from your MEG division, creation of new business entities, et cetera. All what sounds like very exciting news. And yet, revenue for the year ended December 31st, 2019 was $44.6 million as compared to $377.7 million for the same period in 2018. And then revenue for the 3 months ended March 31st, 2020 was $0.4 million as compared to $26.9 million for the same period in 2019. So I just have to ask, put two and two together for me. What's been going on? What's changed? Tell us.
Yeah, so these are important questions. In the last couple of years, we've been transforming the business. So 2018 to 2019 revenues, they're really from business lines that we're no longer in. So we decided to really, develop MEG and the EV business as our kind of crown jewels. And so what you see in the results is a transition, as I said, from those old business lines into what we believe is a new, much more compelling high growth business that we're now in. The Q1 results, obviously our Q1 is going to be what the US's Q2 is, because obviously most of our operations and our activities in China at this time. And obviously that was the source of the coronavirus and the first country to really impose strict shutdown measures. So that impacted us during Q1. So our Q1 kind of shifted over into Q2. But 2020 is the year where all the chess pieces are in place. We have the financing capabilities. We have a very large order book. We have fantastic partners. We have a new center in Qingdao. Everything's ready for us to begin executing and start showing, the fundamentals for the new business.
So Alf, I also have to ask, you mentioned going away from the old business lines in order to welcome in some of the new business lines. What are some of the reasonings for why the company did that?
Yeah, so if you look at when our chairman first came in 4 years ago, this was an old media business. It had really seen out its shelf life. It was starting to wind down. So our chairman brought to the table some interesting technologies that he had investments in AI, machine learning, and also in blockchain. And so what we did was we took a look at some different industries that we thought were in transformation. One of those was financial services. One of those was the electric vehicle industry. So we made some investments in the financial service industry. We generated some revenues from those, but we weren't as pleased with the opportunity as what we saw in electric vehicles. So we began to step away from those and move more and more of our time and our energy into the opportunity that the EV is. And EV is significant for us because it's not about the vehicles, okay? It's about a transition in energy demand, okay? Millions of vehicles are going to stop using gasoline and diesel, and they're going to start using electricity. We want to play a part in that revenue stream of that energy demand.
It's interesting, your business strategy, because I've interviewed a number of companies that are either working on the battery or some type of technology to make EV more efficient, and yet some are focused in North America, but you guys are going direct to China to go after this market. Tell us about the thought process there and what's your approach.
Yeah, the reason we're in China is very, very simple. Two reasons: scale and regulation. China has big population cities, some 20, 30 million people. Okay, they suffer dramatically with pollution there. Think about the 1980s smog in LA. That's what happens to big cities like Beijing and Qingdao every day in China. And actually COVID-19, when we put a pause on society, demonstrated just how bad the pollution from vehicles was. Because when they started to shut the cities down, they started to see the blue sky again for the first time in a long time. So we chose to focus there because of the regulation. Okay, when you've got a regulation-driven environment, then you can more or less understand how your results are going to be. Okay, when you can achieve results, as opposed to trying to innovate and find your way through a new market. So the fact that China is, mandating all of its 1.8 million to 2 million buses be converted from diesel onto battery by 2022, that gives us a really good goal that we can work with. So that's why it was compelling for us. I mean, we do have international operations. We are active elsewhere, but we're looking to take advantage of that regulation-driven advantage we have in China.
Absolutely. So, and I also have to ask, look, unless you, listen, I'm not going to judge or I'm not going to prejudge and assume that you may or may not have a Chinese passport or maybe a Chinese national, but, going for outsiders to go and work in China, it's sometimes really difficult to penetrate that market. So, what plan or what have you guys put into place so that Ideanomics has a chance for success in China?
Yeah, so I have a visa to get into China on my US passport, the same as most other people have. China's incredibly business friendly. I think we've seen recently, the way the supply chain shut down. Most of the world relies on China to be its manufacturing base. So it's very easy to do business there. It is quite open. It's much, much better than it perhaps looks from the outside sometimes. But we do have a strategic advantage. Our chairman is a Chinese American. He's married to a very high profile lady in China. So we have something of a power couple there that I can't say haven't been very useful to us as we've tried to navigate through China and get some of those doors open, particularly when it comes to talk to government departments and things like a deal we struck with PetroChina. Without his political social capital to be able to open those doors, I don't think we could have achieved a deal with a large state-owned entity like that.
Perfect. All right. So for those who may have missed our first interview as well, just, we're going to take a step back here. Let's give a quick overview of exactly what the company and the technology, what you're developing and then looking to sell in China.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very simple. We've developed a model called S to F to C, which is sales to financing to charging. Okay. And really for us, as I said earlier, the seismic shift that's going to take place as commercial vehicles move over to electricity, and remember, it's regulation driven, so they have no choice. That's going to see a huge shift in spending away from gasoline and diesel onto electricity for charging and for batteries. Okay, so we want to take advantage of that. Okay, so what we do is we go out, we use sales and financing, okay, to acquire large scale fleet customers. Once we've acquired those customers, we want to sell them prepaid electricity and access to charging stations in partner networks, so we can earn strong recurring revenues from that. So we don't want to be the next GM, even though we do own an EV manufacturer in Malaysia. We want to be more of an ExxonMobil. We want to play in the space where the real commerce takes place, which is in the energy domain.
Perfect. Okay. So with that, Alf, from what you can tell us, what are some of the company's goals and objectives now for the rest of 2020?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. You start in the world's most populated country that's got heavy state funding into EV to cure its pollution problems, and you make your mistakes at scale as well as you get your success at scale. So, we've been putting our chess pieces in place. COVID-19 slowed us down. It deferred, what we thought would be the start of the success from the beginning of 2020 into, starting in Q2. But we've got a very, very robust and diverse order book at this point that we're looking to fulfill. So I think customers can see quarter-over-quarter growth. Investors like to see quarter-over-quarter growth. I think we can give them that. I think as we're regulation-driven, the market's a little unsteady right now. I think when you're regulation-driven, you're pretty well insulated against any economic downturn as well. So as we start to shift through the gears and we start to execute on this strategy that's really taken us about 2 years as a business, but for our chairman, it's about 7 years worth of kind of vision and investment. We're ready to start executing, and we've already started order deliveries in Q2.
Well, with that, Alf, where can my audience go and find more information about Ideanomics and follow along with the company's progress?
Absolutely, yeah. We've got our website, www.ideanomics.com. They can follow us on Twitter, Ideanomics HQ. They can drop a note into our investor relations team, and they can be added to our email blasts as well. And obviously channels like yourselves that we're regularly asked to come onto as well can be a good source for information.
Well, Alf, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I know some of these questions you've been getting inundated with, and I know some of them can be tough. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to answer them.
Oh, listen, we're doing things differently. We've transformed the business. Investors are right to ask questions. But I think if you're looking for opportunities for high growth, people want to hold stocks 12 to 18 months, companies like Ideanomics that are in high growth areas like EV, they should be interesting to investors at this time.
Absolutely. Well, with that, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it. Good luck. And I look forward to the next update.
Great. Thank you very much. Pleasure being on.